coveted, and they only have a piece of the district budget. And then that person could go to the person that heads up the whole system. I think you call them directors here. We call them superintendents. The CEO of the school board. And they have to make a decision. But again, they only get a certain amount of money. They don't raise taxes, or they used to in this province, and ours too, but they don't anymore. And so they get what they're given. And when we said in New Brunswick, you know, it's not the school, it's not the district that provides the test of financial wherewithal as to it being an undue hardship for financial reasons. It's not even the Ministry of Education. It's the budget of the province of New Brunswick. If accommodating norm is something the province of New Brunswick simply can't afford, and it's, I don't know what the budget is, not as much as yours. Let's say a $10 billion a year budget. Education's probably $1 billion or $1.5 billion, which is, you know, we're smaller than Mississauga. We have 750,000 people. So the numbers would all be 10 times larger for you or more. But it's the provincial treasury. It's the capacity of the people of Ontario that's behind what's reasonable for accommodation. And that's where it has to be focused. And you know, it was funny because the bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education immediately let it be known they thought the Human Rights Commission was being entirely too assertive and getting into their business, and they didn't like that. And it's interesting because somebody actually met with the minister who's a politician and a lawyer, and he laughed because he said, oh yeah, of course, those guys are getting nervous, but he said, it's true. That's what the law requires. I mean, it's the capacity of the province. It's not the school, it's not the district. It's not the district special ed budget, for sure. How many times have you been told to stop when it was the school budget? Raise your hand. School can't do it. School doesn't have what's needed to serve the child you're advocating for. What about the special ed budget of the district? How many times have you told no for that? And then what about the budget of the district? And probably it was hard even to move it there. And then on to the ministry and on to the province. But what I'm saying is, in our judgment from the Human Rights Commission in New Brunswick, that's where we will expect proof or evidence that it's beyond the capacity of the province to accommodate this child. And that's what the law requires. So, exclusion, leaving kids out, abandoning them, has to be justified, not having them included and served well. And I mean that all as one package when I talk about it. In New Brunswick, we developed this guideline, this flow chart to go with our guideline. And I have a few copies of it here. There are some in color and there are others in black and white. And if somebody wants to start spreading them around, feel free. I suppose the people up front get their reward for up front. They get one in color. There are even a few there that are bilingual because we produce them in both English and French. If there is anybody that would like it in both languages, if you work with both, there are some that are in English and French. Let me just explain very quickly the rationale for this flow chart. And this is not peculiar in my judgment to New Brunswick. I think it's a reasonable thing to use in asking educational authorities to discuss the provision of service. The assumption is that the student who has special needs or barriers to learning is in the community school in a regular class with support or with other provisions if needed, but that you would approach the analysis of it like this. You'd say, okay, what's it take to make that work? That middle box, which is just what everybody gets. You know, you're in a class, you get support, you're successful. Well, the first test is in box 1, is you say, is there evidence? Now, I'm telling you how I would judge this as a human rights commissioner. If there's a dispute between a family and a school or school system, this is how our commission has said we're going to ask the questions. Is there evidence that you've done everything reasonable to support physical access and presence in the school? And those aren't just things about physical accessibility. They're also things about air quality, environmental illnesses, severe allergies, a whole bunch of environmental things that are emerging more and more with more kids these days. So what has the school and the school system done to make sure that the individual needs of this kid are accommodated within the structure from the point of view of access to the building and the classrooms? That's first. What's the evidence? Has the system done? Always it's the system that has to answer the questions. Number two, we know that teachers don't know what to do with all the kids who are in their class, no matter what kind of system you have. Teachers face diversity. The more significant the child's need, the more some of them need support. Do they have support? Where's the evidence that the school or the school system has helped teachers develop strategies to deal with the kids that are in their classes? Have they provided them with training and professional support? Have they provided them with in-service opportunities? Have they provided them with joint planning sessions with parents and with other experts who can help them figure out what to do? Yes or no? Where's the money that was spent? Have they done anything specific? So that's the second area of inquiry. The third area are those individual needs that an individual child might have because of his or her inherent characteristics. Could be assistance with communication devices. It could be personal care attendance if the child needs support. Do you know there are still places that I go to where, well, even I was just recently in Austria. And in Austria, if a child needs help with personal care, toileting, a health professional, they don't staff the schools to do it. A health professional comes from the health system at prescribed hours to do the assistance. So they send effectively a nurse or somebody like that to the school at recess and back at noon. The school doesn't accept any responsibility. And you see, this is where we've been. I don't know that we're there yet. Do you still have traces of that where the school system tries to shift off the responsibility to some other part of the government in order to accommodate these needs in school? You know, this is ridiculous. And of course, we're not that far beyond where people had the gall to look at parents and say, well, we don't have the money for this. If you want this service, you're going to have to pay for it. You know parents that have actually paid to send people to schools to help their kids? You do. I do. Raise your hand if you've had that experience. The system is audacious enough in the 21st century to say, we don't have the money, but if you hire somebody to come in, maybe it would work. Absolutely unbelievable. So we have these three areas where the